All right, everybody, welcome into Load the Box, the number one Minnesota Vikings podcast that is co-hosted out of Minnesota and Ohio. It's an impressive feat. We've won the award like 7 years in a row. We still haven't gotten a trophy, but we will take it. I am Jordan Hawthorne. I'm on a generational run of consecutive shows wearing a different bucket hat. I don't know. I think I have 2 left. I can go 2 more, but they are not. One of them is black with flamingos on it. And I don't know what I wear that with. I just saw it in a gas station and had to have it. I'm joined by Will. I think Will's in a very good mood. His Timberwolves defeated the Lakers in impressive fashion to kick off the NBA playoffs for Minnesota. And Anthony Edwards is talking his stuff about, like, they're the Lakers. They're supposed to win. He's so cool. I want to be Anthony Edwards so bad. But, Will, I've yapped long enough to open this show up. We're going to talk about some fat guys tonight. Before we get into that, how have you been, my friend?
I have been well. Last week was a crazy week. A business trip, travel, home, quick Easter trip up to mom and dad's. Kids got to hang out with grandma and grandpa, find all the Easter eggs. It was electric. Candy everywhere, sugar highs everywhere, and we are detoxing today. So if you hear any yelling in the background, that is why. We're doing great though. Like Jordan said, this is now a Timberwolves podcast. We're going to talk about that game 1 shellacking. But first, we'll talk about some big guys in the middle. Last show, which was 2 weeks ago, we talked about faster guys. We talked about running backs. We talked about cornerbacks. And we're talking about the 2025 draft, which is later this week, which is crazy. As we are recording this on Monday, we are 3 days away from NFL Draft 2025 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We could debate whether or not it's a good idea to do it in Green Bay, but the NFL said, we don't care about hotel space. We're going to do it in the tiniest NFL town in America.
The alcohol
So,
sales are going to be through the roof, William. That is going to be
spotted
crazy.
how it's going to be flying off the shelves. All right. So, Jordan, where do you want to start? Offense or defense?
Oh, man. I'm going to stout offense because I actually have some takes about drafting an offensive lineman. I don't think the Vikings are going to draft a tackle unless they feel very strongly that it's a tackle that can be moved to guard. They have their bookends, and I know Brian O'Neill's not young, but drafting a replacement right tackle like 5 years before a guy is probably going to hit the cliff. And that's assuming Brian O'Neill hits the cliff, whenever I think they're good on tackle for the next 5-6 years. And I don't foresee Kwesi and his analytical brain assuming he'll be here 5 years from now. I don't assume he's going to be like, where's a good place to, skimp out on cash and save some cap space? Left and right tackle. So I think if they go, it's going to be in interior offensive line. They've already showed a pretty heavy-handed approach in fixing the interior offensive line this offseason with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries coming in from Indianapolis. So I have a couple of guys that I think the Vikings could take, and if they take them, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to talk about the guys that they would take in like the first or second round, like with a trade back maybe. If you hear anybody swearing up and down that like this 7th round guard is going to be a Hall of Fame talent, blah, 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 they're lying. No one knows. It's a crapshoot. You're just kind of throwing doubts. So like if they take somebody in the 7th round, here's my analysis. If he's 6'5" and over 320, I like the pick. You know what I mean? I think that there's a mentality that I'm kind of looking for. And so, starting off with a guy that I think is a lot of people are talking about him. I don't know that he'll necessarily be there. He plays left guard, and that's Tyler Booker out of Alabama. You're talking about a guy whose pass blocking has been very solid. His run blocking leaves a little bit to be desired, but I just like him. Again, because of the pass blocking. He's really powerful. He kind of gets in his stance and just holds the line, for lack of a better term. And yeah, he's inconsistent in the run game, but I think we saw last season with a slightly improved offensive line. I think that the play was better than we've seen in years past. A guy like Dalton Reisner can fit if he's your weak link, that's fine. He's a good pass blocker. He's so in the run game, and that's been Booker's thing. He's an athletic freak. That's like, I think he was on that stupid. I bring it up all the time. Those like, some guy has like a freak of nature list or whatever that he does every year for like college athletes. And we're talking about a guy. Let me find his height weight combination. 6'5", 320. Just strong as an ox. Absolutely built. Big old head of hair. Like, just, I think he's gonna be good personally. But we'll see. Do you have any questions about Tyler Booker?
Where are you seeing the Vikings looking to target him? Are you thinking in their earlier couple picks or later in the draft?
I think if they get Booker, it might be a stick and pick. I think he is getting when you have a guy who's as big as he is physically, like, you can't teach that stuff. You can't teach a guy to be 6'5", 320. You can maybe, fluctuate the weight, but with how big he is, and I think I'm trying to find it, and I'm probably bad because I haven't found it, but I thought he was. No, I'm thinking of an Ohio State lineman. I'm think there was an Ohio State guard that kicked out to tackle who also has been getting some attention. But when you have a guy anyway who's 6'5" and 320 plus, who can move the way that Booker can, who's got the physicality and the traits that he has, I think you're talking about a stick and pick for the Vikings. Like, maybe you get lucky and you trade down and he's still there, but he's gonna be a first or early second round selection.
Yeah, I think that's pretty on par with what a lot of teams are also thinking. I mean, there's at least sniffings and scratchings around the interwebs about him being a first round pick and being one article called him a plug and play option for the Arizona Cardinals if they were to select him in the first round, which means he's even a higher pick than what the Vikings would be getting at 24. So to your point, he might not even be there, but guards are not necessarily going to be highly, in NBA terms, lottery picks, top 10, top 15. So most of the time they're just not as sexy. They're not at least deemed as important as a tackle or maybe even a center. So, there's that could help the Vikings a little bit if they do want to take him in the first round. So, but yeah, I mean, I think like you said, all around intriguing prospect for the Vikings and other teams as well. So that's a good one to start off with.
Yeah, and another guy who will stay in the SEC, Miles Frazier, is another guard. He's out of LSU. It's very similar profile. He's 6'6", he's 317, I think. I mean, I can't find it. It doesn't matter. He's almost 320, so you're talking about another just a giant human being who he went his final 20 games at LSU, didn't give up a single sack. That's going up against Alabama's. That's going up against all of the SEC. I mean, just the top tier talent that you have in college football. No sacks given up by him. And again, he's a guard, so like he's going up against, defensive tackles and stuff like that. But it's an impressive stat to go 20 consecutive games in the SEC, no sacks allowed. So he's it's funny when you look at like his scouting report, everything is like his eyes in pass protection are good. His awareness in pass protection is good. His anchor and his strength is elite. It's insane how good this guy is at pass protection. Not that good at run blocking. He's just not that good of a run blocker. He is better at planting his feet and getting hit than he is at exploding up and hitting somebody. And, I think that it's the same idea. And let me be very clear. There's a lot of different schools of thought in how you build offensive line and what you want. Obviously, the Vikings have been in the camp of like, just get the fastest guys you can that are okay at pass blocking, and we're going to run a zone scheme, and we're going to bust big runs with Dalvin Cook. And, we're going to, this kind of break dancing to steal from First Things First, this break dancing style of offensive line building, I don't like it. I like what Philadelphia does, which is we're going to get the biggest humans on the planet. We're going to make them lift 700 pounds every day to just get strong. And then we're going to have them push for 5 yard chunks at a time. And then maybe we'll get a running back like Saquon Barkley, who, if he gets the slightest hole, it's all of a sudden a 75-yard run. So, look, I don't know if the Vikings have the Saquon Barkley. I think it's pretty clear they don't have that. They have Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason and maybe a running back, from the show last week, 2 weeks ago, that they'll add, but I don't think any guy they draft is going to be Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's a special talent. But there's nothing wrong with being able to run the ball consistently 5-6 yards with a just power O-line scheme. And so I think you'll see that's a recurring theme with the guys that I bring up. You have any questions about Miles Frazier? Let me answer it before you answer your previous question. We're talking about probably like a third, fourth round pick here. So mid round guy. I'm not swearing he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I just like him. I like his traits. I like the style that he plays with. So any questions there?
Yeah, it's more of a general thought, and I'm just curious. Kind of, and this can be a philosophical back and forth if we want. I'm just curious what you think the Vikings will target. You've talked about two guys here that are pass block first, run block second, if you will. Do you think the Vikings are going to be okay with that? With this, well stated, well intentioned, we're going to go trade for Jordan Mason. We're going to try and beef up our run game. Are they going to be targeting a guy in the draft who is not as all around of a talent? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
yes, you want to keep JJ McCarthy standing upright, but a way to keep him standing upright is to get him in 3rd and 4 rather than 3rd and 7. And so if you can run the ball on early downs, that helps him. So, I mean, we saw it at Michigan. That helps him immensely. So I'm curious what kind of what you think their philosophy is going to be with that.
I think that you're seeing Detroit, the way that they're running the ball and the way they're just getting like elite offensive linemen. And they do run kind of a zone scheme with Jameer Gibbs, but they are capable of running the ball inside the 5 yard line, to just be blunt. And I think the Vikings are very aware that they can't call run plays on 1st and goal and expect success, because they just haven't been able to do it in all of Kevin O'Connell's tenure. So I think KOC as a play caller is probably going to shift to more of a, hey, I just need some guys that can make one block. And I think when you talk about like run blocking deficiencies, it's not necessarily, hey, well, 1st and goal from the 1, we need to get 1 yard. Can we give it to CJ Ham? Can we do a QB sneak? Can we run ISO up the middle? I think that's not where the deficiencies are, because when you have a 6'6", 320 guy, just, hey, take 2 steps forward and push as hard as you can, that's easy. It's more in the consistency of like, okay, you're at the 50 and you want to break off a 50-yard touchdown. Is your left guard capable of holding a block for 3 seconds to let your back get around and get to the next level? So I think they would be okay with going with a guy who has some deficiencies in that area. One, because you have to trust your coaching and your development that you'll have. You have to trust that the guys you have in the building will make him an okay, if not better than okay run blocker. But also, I think the fix that they want to make is, I think, less about running the ball like for 150 yards every game. I don't think they want to turn into, like what Philadelphia is, where they just run. I think they want to just be able to consistently get like 5 yards. I think like 3rd and 1 is running the ball on the table. I think they want to put that on the table, and I think these guys add that.
I think that is astute analysis, because I think you also have two guys, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. No one's going to sit here and pretend they're Saquon Barkley, like you're saying. But they are two very capable running backs that aren't going to need the C's parted for them to run the ball. Jordan
Correct.
Mason can lower his shoulder and, get 2.5 yards after contact. Aaron Jones is so slippery that you get him just a little seam and he can make something happen. So
And he's
I
shockingly
think
physical as well. Like I don't want to take
he,
that
he
away from him. For
is.
how small he is, he runs angry.
And he runs angrier than Dalvin Cook ever did. I think we can probably agree on that.
I agree.
Dalvin Cook was there was a point, a very short point where I was starting to think that Dalvin Cook was a better overall asset than Adrian Peterson was. And this is going to sound blasphemous, just because Adrian Peterson couldn't catch the ball to save his life. He had Rudy Gobert hands. But the thing with Dalvin Cook that was incredible was, he was a 3 down back. He could catch, he could block, he could run. And, there was that very short window where I was like, oh my gosh, I might want him more than Adrian Peterson if I was building a franchise. I don't think that's true, just looking at the career totality of those two guys. But Dalvin Cook's strength, all of this is to say, his strength was not lowering his shoulder and getting extra yards. His strength was doing jump cuts and making people look like fools and going down gracefully. Like the best Dalvin Cook way to get tackled was kind of fall down on his own once he was already wrapped up. So, um, all that is to say, Aaron Jones, yes, can provide a little bit of thump on his own. So, any more interior linemen you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about some defensive guys?
I'll throw one more guy in the ring, and it's just because after I post a video that's called, Viking interior offensive line, defensive line, whatever the title ends up being, there's gonna like if we get comments, it's gonna say like, why didn't you talk about Goy Zabel? Because every show is talking about the Vikings and Goy Zabel because he went to Indy SU, and also he can play all 5 spots on the line. Most websites that you will look at will have him listed at tackle, and I do think that if he doesn't I think someone's going to draft him, and it would not shock me if they slap him at right tackle or left tackle, and he ends up being pretty good. I do like him as a prospect. Even if you draft him in the late first round and he busts, I still think you're talking about a really high quality swing backup that oh no, our center's down. Put Zabel in. He'll hold for a month. He'll be a solid center for a month. So even if he's not a consistent starter, I think he's got that. But I mean, let me pull it up. Let's pull up the height weight because he's the he's 6'6", 312. Just a, I mean, just I mean, these are
cake.
Yeah, dude. I mean, these are just LeBron James if he didn't work out. Just big, fat men that, and Zabel's not even that big in terms of offense. I mean, the guys I'm talking about are 320 plus. He's coming in at almost 310. But yeah, man, he's got all the tools for all the positions. He's kind of a unicorn. But he went to Indy SU. He's like Travis Hunter if Travis Hunter was fat. He's like that kind of a thing. That would be the comp for him. But again, he went to Indy SU. So while Travis Hunter was having 3 touchdown, 2 interception games in a power conference, Zay Goebel or Goy Zabel, Zay having a stroke live. Goy, yeah, we'll edit that out in post. We will not. But Goy Zabel was bullying UPS drivers and dental hygienists that played football for fun at whatever second tier college they went to. So I think he's got the tools. I would love to see the Vikings take him because it does open there is a conversation to be had that let's say you draft Goy Zabel and you he's actually really good. And then you get to a point where it's time to pay JJ McCarthy. And JJ McCarthy's good. We have to, so do we get rid of Jefferson to save the money? Well, we like Jefferson. He's still in his prime because I think he's still 22 years old. We've already gotten rid of Addison. We've probably hit on another receiver. When the money gets real tight, I think there is a conversation in 4 years about maybe Zabel's the new right tackle, and O'Neal is now a trade piece. And it's very long term. I don't think you take Goy Zabel with the intention of he is Brian O'Neal's replacement, but he opens that window 5 years down the line if he's good. Immediately, you need to be a good left guard. You need to be a really solid left guard so that way we can contend today. And 5 years from now, we might move you out to tackle because why not? And I know that there would be some issues with like, well, he's played left guard for at that point however many years. Now you're going to move him to right tackle. Like that's a big jump, but if anybody can do it, it's a guy like this. I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So all the tools are there. I love him as a prospect, and I'm excited to see where he's going to go. I don't think the Vikings will take him though, because I don't think the Vikings are going to take somebody like a Goud in the first round. That's not Kwesi's style at all.
I also don't think Kwesi's going to get cute and sentimental with picking a guy just because he went to NDSU.
No.
Not that that'd be the only reason the Vikings would take him, but I think Vikings fans are very aware of the surrounding talent in the area. And, Vikings fans think more about NDSU football, I'm sure, than Kwesi does. So, not that Kwesi hasn't scouted him, not that he's not on their minds, none of that. I mean, I'm sure they've done their due diligence on him and everybody else, but we like to look at things that are familiar. So, guys that went to local schools, we get excited about, oh, what if a Gopher made it to the Vikings, whatever. We get all excited when Blake Cashman comes home. But that's a fan thing. And
Yeah.
so you're not, unless you're the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James is available at the number 1 pick, and it's not only a home run draft pick, and he's also from your hometown, and it's just a slam dunk overall. Unless you're in that position where the number 1, no doubt about it,
It would have
local
to.
kid it's a dream scenario.
Yes.
That's not,
It would have
that
to
doesn't
be,
cross GM's minds.
to put it in like football terms. I don't remember what draft year it was when Wentz came out, but it would be like if the Vikings didn't have a QB and they were picking second overall when Wentz came out, and it's like,
Exactly.
hey, it's a fit. The way I could see them taking Zabel. Let's say there's an unprecedented run on tackles and guards leading up to the Vikings pick, and they were like, oh, we were going to trade down and take the best available guard, but like 6 of them just went. But here's the problem with that. Goy Zabel's going to go before a guy like Tyler Booker goes, I think. I think Goy Zabel's a better prospect. He has teams that need tackles, teams that need guards, team that needs centers. He fits. He's a fit for anybody that has an offensive line problem. And I don't know if you've watched football ever. Every team has a need on the O line. Like no one's batting 1,000 except for maybe Philly on the offensive line. So I just don't think it's going to happen. I love seeing everybody saying it is going to happen, and I'd love for him to slip. I'd love for the NFL to just get it wrong. And, him be there and the Vikings trade down to 32 and take Zabel with the last pick, and we all go to bed that night like, cool, we got our new guy, and this is going to be awesome, like it's exactly what we wanted. But Kwesi also has a thing for drafting, like, he doesn't really draft small school guys high. Like, the small school guys are the feel-good stories that you talk about, like the 6th and 7th round guys. Like, he wants guys that have
like
played.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, like LDL's the perfect example of like, yeah, okay, we'll take him and we'll see what he's got, but I'm not wasting a second-round pick on LDL. I'm going to waste a second-round pick on Ed Ingram because Ed Ingram actually played at a school that produces NFL caliber talent. Like,
yeah. This is not necessarily a criticism of Gray Zabel, but I think the thing that could be interesting to think about with him is he's a jack of all trades on the offensive line, better than a specialist. Would you rather have a guy who has mastered the guard position, or would you rather have a utility player?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a utility player in baseball. He's a utility player because he's not elite at any position. He's good enough at all of them. And so, there's value of that person, but that person tends to be the 6th offensive lineman rather than a starter. So that could be something where I could see a guy like him gets drafted and he hasn't mastered a single position. He's just really good at all of them. And then you put him in the starting lineup and he struggles because he is not a tried and true guard.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be. So it's also just apples and oranges. The, Summit League, is that what they play football? Like the Summit League in football, and then going to the NFL. It's not even. It's 2 different sports.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
You're looking at traits. You're looking at physical ability. You're looking at athleticism. So if he's got the right tools and the Vikings believe in him, then it could be a home run pick, like you said.
Yeah.
we've already gone 25 minutes
Yeah.
here on just the offensive fat guys. So let's talk about some defensive fat guys. No offense to these 300 pounders. Um, who do you like on defense?
How dare you assume that I would only talk about 300 pound? The first guy I want to talk about is a 340 pounder. Look, I have to stout. I'm gonna do this quick. I'm gonna speed run this because we out. We want to try and keep this under half an hour. So, Kenneth Grant, I've pounded the draft Kenneth Grant. Trade up for Kenneth Grant. Get nuts with Kenneth Grant, baby. He's gonna be good. He's one of those guys where I'm like, yeah, he seems like he's like one of the best defensive tackles in the class. If he's even in range for the Vikings, they better do it. You know what I mean? Like, they better try their best to do it. They're not going to. He's not going to come to Minnesota. I've talked about him at length before. Go back and listen to shows. He's a freak. He's huge. I love him. Okay, now here's why I was offended. Coming in at 290 pounds, TJ Sanders. I don't think the Vikings will take him. They kind of have this asset of a player already on their team a couple times over. But TJ Sanders is like your typical 3-tech. He's just he's an undersized interior lineman, an oversized edge. You put him inside, he's not that good at run protection. He's really good at getting after quarterbacks. He's a pass rush specialist. I love him. I think that he's explosive. I think his hands are elite. Like, I just love what I see out of TJ Sanders. I don't think the Vikings will go after him because I don't know that they're going to draft a D tackle. Or at least if they do, I don't know that he's going to play this year because of all the additions they've made there with, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave and, they're bringing back Harrison Phillips and it seems like Redmond's still here. Like, it seems like that position is like, there's already a lot of competition there. So bringing in this high of a pick would kind of be crazy. The last guy I'll talk about, Deion Walker out of Kentucky, 345 pounds, 6'6", nose tackle. Stop making Harrison Phillips a nose tackle. He's not a nose tackle. I know that the defense has been good, but like, Harrison Phillips isn't a damn nose tackle. Get a true nose tackle. Get Fat Pat back in the building. Get me fat Deion Walker out of Kentucky. You want to guess that? Let's play a game. Guess what he's good at. Guess what he's bad at. He's 6'6". He's 350 pounds. What do you think he's good at doing?
Really good at swallowing up the run.
It's crazy, isn't it? He's so good in the run game. Do you think he's good at getting after the quarterback?
Probably not.
No, he's really slow. He's not very fast, so he can't really chase down quarterbacks in today's NFL. But that's fine, because you're drafting him in the fourth round, and he's going to come in and you can say, hey, Harrison Phillips, you're a 3-tech now. You don't have to be the biggest guy on the defensive line at 300 pounds even. Get a nose tackle. I get the defense doesn't. Brian Flores doesn't need a nose tackle. Well, all of NFL history disagrees with you.
Just because LeBron James doesn't need to have a true center on his team doesn't mean he wouldn't benefit from one. It's like this idea of like, just because you have a defensive coach in Brian Flores who can make chicken salad out of chicken bones doesn't mean that you don't give him better ingredients. Brian Flores has made a hell of a defense, sorry for the swearing, with relatively mediocre talent across the board the last 2 seasons. Yes, the Vikings had good defensive talent that was added to the team last year with Grenard and Ben Ginkel and Cashman, but none of those guys were all pros before they showed up in Minnesota. Brian Flores got 2 of those guys to the Pro Bowl. And Blake Cashman, the Vikings didn't lose when Blake Cashman played until the very end of the season. Yeah. So that was Brian Flores taking good players and elevating them. What happens if we give him the right ingredients and the best ingredients? He's made defenses out of teams that don't have beef. What if we gave him beef? What if we got him somebody as big as, Vince Wilfork? What if we got him somebody as big as Vita Vea? Doesn't mean they're good if they're big, but it helps. And so I'm right there with you. I would love to see the Vikings just have a guy that was 2 guys wide in the middle of the line, swallowed up 2 different offensive linemen. You have to block him with 2 because he's so big, and just swallow up the run and make it even more impossible to run against this team who was already awesome against the run last year. So
I think the best way that I can put what you've just said with because if you haven't figured it out by now watching this show, I like to speak in analogies. I like to do comparisons. It's because I grew up listening to like Colin Cowherd and guys like that. But who was good at football? Tom Brady. You know when he had his best season? When you gave a good, like an already good quarter, you gave him Randy Moss. And it was like, oh shit. Sorry. Oh crap. This is crazy. Like, I'm thinking about Randy Moss in a Patriots uniform in '07. Like, my young developing brain just, it was like giving a toddler nicotine. I was eating it up. I was like, this is the best football I've ever watched. And it's why I never hated Tom Brady, because that was crazy. Like, So anyway, imagine giving Brian Flores, like you said, he's scheming around deficiencies. So let him scheme around strength, like let him build to his strengths instead of playing around his weaknesses. And then getting those weaknesses exploited by Detroit when, you're relying on Cam Bynum. I know we all loved Cam Bynum. The celebrations were cool. He's a good safety. But God is my witness, on Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown runs, it felt like every time it was Cam Bynum coming up, having to make a play, and he didn't make the play. And so maybe we could shut that down before it gets to the safety. Maybe we could shut that down, as Will so elegantly put it, with a guy who is 2 guys heavy, just eating 2 or 3 offensive linemen and letting Ivan Pace shoot in there and make the play in the backfield. I don't know. It's a nuts idea. It's since leather helmets, having a giant fat human in the middle of a defensive line has been how you played. And oh yeah, by the way, Philadelphia also employs giant fat humans on the defensive line that aren't so great at rushing the passer. They just won the Super Bowl by 1,000,000 points. So, not saying we have to become Philadelphia. Deion Walker, like, if they walk away with one guy in this draft, I want it to be him. Just because of what he would represent in terms of mentality and team building.
Beat the Detroit Lions in the playoffs last year.
You cut out.
Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders beat the Detroit Lions in the playoffs last year, right? They had a massive, fearsome D-tackle combination. Kane and Jonathan Allen. We already have one of those guys. He actually came to our team. That's pretty cool. Get another big guy to pair with him. Yeah. So now, Von Hargrave, or Javon Hargrave, I should say. I was corrected on that by the Vikings brass when they were talking about him. But yes, they have him, but why not beef that up? Yes, we got Jalen Redmond. We have LDR, who the Vikings actually seem to really like. Taki Taimani's another guy they seem to really like. But if somebody's there that can really enhance what's going on the interior, it's only going to help you in a division that is run heavy. The Lions and the Packers want to beat you by running the ball. We don't know what the Bears are good at yet, but we know that the Lions and the Packers are going to try and beat you by running the ball first. So, yes, the Vikings, we agree. The Vikings had a good defensive run attack last year. I don't remember the exact statistics and where they placed, rankings-wise, but they were one of the top run defenses in the league all year. Why not make it better? Why not lean into a strength?
It also helped that the Vikings had like 2 to 3 possession leads in a lot of games last year. I'm not saying that you're incorrect by pointing that out, but that helped a lot. That it felt like they never took the foot off the gas. They did kind of in the third quarter most games, but like they would start really hot, die, and then finish hot. Like teams couldn't really run the ball against them, not because they physically couldn't, game plan wise.
When you have a 2-possession lead, it's hard to stay patient with the run game in the third quarter. It just is.
Absolutely.
And the teams that did have success were like Arizona and Atlanta, who made the game competitive for most of the game. I mean, Arizona came down to the last second, and Atlanta, it was competitive for 3 quarters. So, those games stand out because they were competitive games and the opposition was able to run the ball on them.
Yeah.
We will come back after the draft. There could be a lot to talk about. There also might not be much to talk about. And this will be my final thoughts. And then, Jordan, I'll let you tease your post-draft quarterback tinfoil hat idea. And we can maybe talk about that next week's show, get into it more detail, but we can, drop some Easter eggs here. This draft could be exciting. It also could just be really beige, and it could just be the Vikings got They traded back. They got a couple extra picks. They got an extra tight end. They got, a couple third round tackle or third round defensive tackles and offensive guards. And they got a cornerback in the 5th round. It could be a lot like that and not very exciting. And I truthfully think that's probably how it's going to end up. You're probably not going to end up drafting a day 1 starter this year, unless, like Jordan said, they do stick and pick in the 1st round and, get lucky a little bit with one of those guards being available. But chances are they're going to be adding rotational, important, future building, but rotational pieces for the short term. But there's also a chance that we could see some fireworks. And one of those fireworks could be maybe a trade for a quarterback. Jordan, I'll let you take your final thoughts off of that, and then we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, by the way, about the draft maybe being chalk. I have some final thoughts. Let me tease the show. I think Kirk Cousins is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. The white Kirk Cousins jersey is still in the closet, and I'm ready to break it back out. I really, and we talked about this before the show. We will get into this next week if something has not happened. Oh, there might be an emergency show on like Thursday afternoon before the draft about it. But the Brock Osweiler to the Browns trade, where the Browns were like, yeah, just give us like a 1st round pick and we'll eat all that dead money. We're not paying anybody. We just went 0-16. Who cares? I could see the Atlanta trying to do something like that. Not to that extent, but I could see it. So maybe Kirk Cousins comes back. That's the tease. We'll have a more in-depth conversation about backup QB next week on the show, because it's an important discussion to have. I mean, putting the entire season on J.J. McCarthy's shoulders is a lot to ask, and I'm not saying that you need to go sign Aaron Rodgers, but you should probably have a plan in case, McCarthy like sprains an ankle and has to miss a couple games. Like, can we win games, or are those just buys? Like, do we just forfeit because we're starting butt whipping? Final thoughts. I agree with what Will said. This draft is gonna suck. Like, it's not gonna be exciting. I don't think we're gonna draft somebody that's like, oh my gosh, this guy's making plays all season. Whoever they draft's gonna sit for most of the year, if not the entire year, because the team's already kind of built. I don't foresee them doing anything nuts. And it reminds me, WrestleMania happened this weekend, and I'm a big pro wrestling guy, and so last year's WrestleMania main event, Cody Rhodes fighting Roman Reigns, and The Rock came out, and The Rock's trying to screw Cody Rhodes, and then John Cena came out, but The Rock beat up John Cena, and then The Undertaker came back, and it was like this fireworks explosion, and the good guy won in the end. And then last night at WrestleMania, John Cena's the bad guy now. Last night at WrestleMania, everyone's like, it's going to happen again, it's going to be a fireworks show, and it was like, no, like, you can't do that every year. If you keep doing that, you'll run out of stuff. So it was like a wrestling match. And then Travis Scott came down and tried to get involved and got beat up. And then the match ended, and people were like, this was nothing like last year. And it's like, what? You can't do that every year. So yeah, the Vikings have like 3 draft picks. They just don't have the ammo to. They're not going to draft a quarterback and then an edge rusher and then, project or what was Prospect X or whatever LDL's nickname was. Like, they're not going to draft all these crazy, like, exciting things. But have fun with it. I hope they get a really good blocking tight end, and we're going to love it. So I've been Jordan. Follow the show at LTB Vikings on X. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube, like it. He's been Will. Follow him at Will Bad Lose, and check out the Bad Loser blog. Check out VikingsTerritory.com for breaking Vikings news. And enjoy the draft. It's going to be a fun one. Let us know who you think the Vikings are going to draft down below. And yeah, we'll see you guys after the draft, and we'll have some new Vikings to talk about, as well as who they should sign. Skol, y'all.